My parents demanded I give my house to my brother and rent somewhere else. I agreed, then secretly sold the house and moved away, leaving them to walk into a place that now belonged to someone else. Have you ever been the strong one? The reliable one? The person everyone assumed would just be fine no matter what? Well, what if the people who were supposed to love you most saw you as nothing more than a convenient resource? And what happens when that resource finally runs dry or decides to fight back? Because that's exactly what I did, and honestly, the sheer satisfaction of it felt incredible. For my entire life, I was the backup option, the one nobody actually cared about. My older brother, Tyler, he was always the shining star. And me? I was just there. The dependable one they could count on, but never truly valued. The afterthought. The safety net. The one who'd always be okay, no matter what curveball life threw. But one Thursday evening in October, I finally stopped being anyone's afterthought. Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact moment something inside me snapped. It wasn't when I overheard my parents telling Gramps that Tyler should get the bulk of the inheritance because he needed financial stability, while I'd always managed somehow. Like my ability to handle life was some kind of character flaw that meant I deserved less support. It wasn't even when they skipped my college graduation ceremony, something I'd worked 4 years toward. To drive 2 states over and watch Tyler's amateur softball tournament. A tournament his team lost in the first round, by the way. They didn't even apologize. Just said Tyler really needed their support that day, and I'd understand when I was older. I was 22. No, it wasn't even the $5,000. $5,000 I'd saved for months, working overtime, skipping meals, just to build a small emergency fund. My buffer, the little bit of security that let me sleep at night, knowing I could handle unexpected expenses. Gone in an afternoon because Tyler and his wife, Kayla, had their 3rd financial disaster in 2 years, and my parents expected me to fix it. What truly broke me was how casually they made life-altering decisions about my future without bothering to consult me. Like I was just a resource to be deployed however they wanted. Like my thoughts, my feelings, my plans, they were completely irrelevant to their calculations. Growing up in Tyler's shadow wasn't just my normal. It was my entire childhood identity. I remember being 8 when Tyler got a brand new PlayStation for his birthday, top-of-the-line system. 3 controllers, dozens of games. When my birthday came 3 months later, I inherited his old handheld device with sticky buttons and a flickering screen. Mom acted like she was doing me a favor. When Tyler joined the middle school basketball team, my parents immediately rearranged their entire work schedules to attend every single game. Tuesdays, Thursdays, weekend tournaments. Dad would leave work early. Mom would swap shifts. They'd sit in the bleachers cheering. Tyler mostly sat on the bench. He wasn't a starter, just a mediocre player who occasionally got subbed in during the 4th quarter when the outcome was already decided. But they never missed a game. Not once. Meanwhile, I was pulling straight A's, making the honor roll 4 years in a row, competing in state-level debate tournaments. My certificates would go on the fridge for maybe 3 days before Mom would replace them with Tyler's latest, barely passing grade. A C- in English deserved more celebration than my academic achievements. Tyler needs extra encouragement. Mom would explain whenever I asked why they couldn't make my debate competitions. You're so independent, Brianna. You've always been our little adult. You don't need us there the same way he does. Little adult. I heard that phrase so many times. It might as well have been my middle name. It was just code for, we don't need to pay attention to you because you're not causing us problems. The favoritism only got worse as we got older. Tyler dropped out of college after 3 semesters, fully funded by my parents. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs to cover my own tuition, won scholarships, and graduated with a 3.7 GPA. My reward? A text saying congrats and a $50 Target gift card. No party. No celebration dinner. Nothing. Tyler's high school graduation party, not even college, had been a massive backyard barbecue with 75 people, catered food, and a custom cake for a 2.3 GPA. The unfairness burned, but I just kept pushing forward. Figured if I just proved myself enough, worked hard enough, achieved enough, they'd eventually see me. Eventually recognize that I was worth their attention, too. I was wrong. By age 27, I'd saved enough to buy a modest 3-bedroom house. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every mortgage payment, every repair, every piece of furniture, I handled it alone. I still remember signing the closing papers, hands shaking as I wrote my name. The realtor congratulated me on buying property solo at my age. I drove to my new house, walked through the empty rooms, and I cried. Happy tears, proud tears. I'd actually done it. Tyler and Kayla, meanwhile, kept floundering from one disaster to another. Tyler treated employment like a seasonal hobby. Enthusiastic for the first few weeks, then increasingly flaky until he either quit or got fired. He'd had 7 jobs in 5 years: retail, warehouse, delivery driving, call center, customer service. Never lasted more than 4 months anywhere. His pattern was always the same. Start with big plans and declarations about how this job was different, how he was really going to apply himself this time. Within a month, he'd be complaining about his boss or his coworkers. By month 3, he'd be calling in sick frequently. By month 4, he'd be unemployed again, with some story about how the job wasn't a good fit culturally. Kayla wasn't helping matters. She had this compulsive spending problem that made their financial situation exponentially worse. Designer purses she couldn't afford, restaurant meals 3 times a week, a leased BMW that cost more monthly than most people's rent. She'd blow through paychecks before they cleared, then act surprised when the account was overdrawn. Together, they were a financial disaster in constant motion. The cryptocurrency incident was peak Tyler brilliance. He'd gotten obsessed with digital currency after watching some YouTube videos from influencers who drove rented Lamborghinis and talked about generational wealth. Tyler became convinced he'd discovered the secret to getting rich quick. He borrowed $10,000 from our parents, who really couldn't afford to loan that kind of money, and dumped it all into some obscure coin that was supposedly about to explode. Had this whole spreadsheet showing how his investment would 10x within 6 months. The coin crashed within 3 weeks, losing 90% of its value overnight when the creators did a rug pull and disappeared with everyone's money. Tyler's $10,000 became about $800 in basically worthless digital tokens. Did he learn anything from this? Absolutely not. My parents kept bailing him out. Every few months, there'd be a new crisis. Rent overdue. Car about to be repossessed. Credit cards maxed out. Utilities getting shut off. And my parents, despite being firmly middle class with limited retirement savings, would somehow come up with the money. When their own funds dried up from constantly rescuing Tyler, guess who they turned to? Just a small loan, Dad would say, calling me at work. His voice would have this careful, measured tone, like he was trying to de-escalate a hostage situation. Tyler's in a really tough spot right now. He's got this job interview lined up, but they need to get through this month first. Those small loans added up terrifyingly fast. $500 here for rent. $1,200 for Kayla's car repairs. $800 when Tyler's phone got shut off. $3,000 when they were about to be evicted. Over 5 years, I handed my brother $15,000. 15 grand that I'd earned through actual work. That I'd saved by making sacrifices. That was supposed to be building my future. Gone. Gone to subsidize Tyler's inability to adult. I knew that money was never coming back. I kept meticulous records anyway. A spreadsheet with every loan amount, date, and their promise to pay me back as soon as things stabilized. Things never stabilized. Tyler never paid back a penny. My extended family started noticing the dynamic at gatherings. Family barbecues became uncomfortable social experiments where people would make passive-aggressive comments about my generosity. My Aunt Beverly would sip her iced tea and say things like, "So wonderful of you to support your brother's journey." Not everyone would be so giving. The way she emphasized giving made it clear she knew I was being taken advantage of. My Uncle Rich was less subtle. At Thanksgiving, he'd make loud comments within Tyler's earshot. "Must be nice having a rich sister who bails you out every time you screw up." Some of us had to figure life out on our own without a safety net. Tyler would just smirk and shrug, completely unbothered by the criticism. Why would he care? As long as the money kept flowing, he had no reason to change. Despite knowing I was being used, I kept showing up to family events. Sundays, holidays, random weeknight dinners when Mom would call saying, "It's been forever since we've seen you," even though I'd been there the previous week. I'd arrive exhausted after grinding through a 10-hour shift, still in my business clothes because I didn't have time to change, only to find Tyler and Kayla already there. They'd be sprawled on the living room furniture, feet propped on the coffee table. Mom always told me not to put my feet on it, eating leftover takeout that I'd brought to a previous dinner. Tyler would barely acknowledge my arrival, maybe a half wave without looking away from whatever was on TV. Kayla would glance up from her phone long enough to ask if I could watch their dog next weekend because they had plans. Not hello, not how are you, just an immediate request for a favor. And I'd usually say yes, because that's what I did, the reliable one, the one who helped without complaining. Then came the dinner that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening in October, unseasonably warm. I'd just wrapped a massive project at work, 3 months of analyzing compliance protocols for a merger that finally got approved. My team had celebrated with cake, and my boss had hinted at a promotion. I should have been exhausted and happy, ready to go home and celebrate with a bubble bath and trashy reality TV. Instead, I'd gotten a text from Mom that morning. "Family dinner tonight. 6:30, don't be late." The exclamation points should have warned me. Mom only used excessive punctuation when she really wanted something. I pulled up to my parents' house around 6:20, parking behind Tyler's beat-up sedan and Kayla's leased BMW. That silver M3 she absolutely couldn't afford, but drove anyway because image mattered more than financial stability in her world. The monthly payment on that car was probably $1,400. Insane. The smell of Mom's homemade lasagna hit me the second I opened the front door. My absolute favorite dish. Mom only made lasagna for special occasions or when she wanted something, which meant tonight fell into the latter category. I should have turned around right then. Should have faked a sudden migraine or work emergency. But I didn't, because despite everything, some stupid part of me still hoped for normal family dinners. "Brianna!" Mom called from the kitchen, her voice unnaturally cheerful. Perfect timing. We're just about ready to eat. Tyler and Kayla were already positioned in the living room like they owned the place. Tyler had claimed Dad's recliner, the good one with the massage function that Dad never let anyone else use. Kayla sat on the couch with her feet tucked under her, scrolling through her phone and occasionally showing Tyler something that would make him laugh. Neither of them greeted me. Tyler gave me a brief head nod. Kayla didn't even look up. The dining room table was set for 4 with Mom's good dishes, the ones she usually reserved for Christmas and Easter. Cloth napkins, wine glasses, even though I was the only one who drank wine and I'd driven there. The fancy serving platters she'd gotten as wedding gifts 30 years ago. Red flags everywhere. I was walking into an ambush and didn't realize it yet. Dinner started normally enough. Dad asked about work. I gave him the abbreviated version of my project success, watching his eyes glaze over as I explained compliance protocols. He'd always been more interested in Tyler's stories, which tended to be dramatic and entertaining, rather than professionally technical. Tyler dominated the conversation as usual, spent 20 minutes explaining his latest money-making scheme. flipping houses. Apparently, binge-watching several renovation shows on HGTV and YouTube had transformed him into a real estate investment expert overnight. The key is finding undervalued properties in up-and-coming neighborhoods, he said, gesturing with his fork for emphasis. He was using phrases he'd clearly memorized from some podcast without really understanding what they meant. You buy low, do some cosmetic updates, then sell high when the market appreciates. It's basically free money if you know what you're doing. Tyler had no construction skills, no real estate license, no capital, and no track record of successfully completing any project ever. But sure, house flipping was definitely his calling. Kayla jumped in with breathless enthusiasm. We've been looking at properties online. There's this adorable little bungalow that just needs some paint and new countertops. It could be worth $300,000 after renovations. The property in question was probably listed for $250,000, needed a complete gut renovation, and they had exactly $0 for a down payment. But details. My parents nodded along enthusiastically, like Tyler was presenting a legitimate business plan instead of a pipe dream based on reality TV. I pushed pasta around my plate, said, "That's interesting," at appropriate intervals and counted down the minutes until I could leave. That's when Mom cleared her throat. Deliberately. That fake little cough she does when she's about to say something she knows will be controversial. "So," she began, glancing at Dad for backup, "we've been having some family discussions about Tyler and Kayla's situation. Here we go." I braced myself for another loan request. In my head, I was already calculating my current savings balance and how much I could spare without dipping into my emergency fund or down payment savings for a potential future property. "They've been having a really tough time since their rent went up," Mom continued, her voice taking on that syrupy, sympathetic tone. "And with a baby on the way." "Wait, what?" I interrupted, completely blindsided. A baby? Kayla was pregnant. This was significant news that nobody had bothered to mention to me, despite the fact that I'd been to 3 family dinners in the past month. "Oh." Mom's hand flew to her mouth in this theatrical gesture of surprise. "We thought you knew. Kayla's 11 weeks along, due in late April." I looked at Kayla, who was smiling with this smug, self-satisfied expression, like getting pregnant while unemployed, broke, and unstable was some kind of achievement deserving congratulations. "Congratulations," I managed, my brain still trying to process this bombshell. Tyler was about to be a father. Tyler, who couldn't keep a job for 4 months or manage his own finances, was going to be responsible for another human being. "So anyway," Mom continued, clearly eager to move past my reaction, "we found the perfect solution to help them out. They're going to move into your house next month. We figured you could take the spare bedroom there or stay with us temporarily, or maybe find a small apartment since you don't really need all that space living alone." Time stopped. My stomach dropped like I was free falling off a building. I stared at her, waiting for someone to burst out laughing and admit this was an elaborate joke, a hidden camera prank. Surely this wasn't really happening. Nobody laughed. "My house." I finally got out, my voice weird and strangled. "It just makes perfect sense." Dad jumped in immediately, using his reasonable problem-solver voice, like this was simple math instead of completely insane. "You've got 3 bedrooms and you're living there alone. That's a lot of house for one person. Tyler and Kayla need room for the baby. And that front bedroom with the big window would be perfect for a nursery. My front bedroom, with my big bay window, in my house. The house I'd bought myself. The only thing I'd ever owned that was truly mine. We could paint it pale yellow." Kayla added, looking up from her phone. "Gender neutral for now, until we find out what we're having. And we'll need to baby-proof everything, obviously. Maybe put up one of those fancy baby gates at the stairs." She was talking about modifications to my house like it was already settled, like they'd already measured the rooms and picked out furniture, like my opinion was just a formality they were bothering to go through. This way, You won't have to worry about maintaining such a large space by yourself, Mom said, patting my hand like she was doing me a huge favor. It's really what's best for everyone. Family takes care of family. They weren't asking me. They were informing me. This wasn't a discussion or a request for help. This was an announcement that they'd already made decisions about my life and my property without including me in the conversation. I looked around the table. Dad was nodding supportively. Mom looked pleased with herself for solving everyone's problems. Tyler had this little smirk playing at his lips, like he'd won something. Kayla was back on her phone, probably browsing baby furniture. Something inside me cracked. Not a dramatic explosion. More like ice breaking up on a frozen lake. A shift so fundamental I could feel it in my bones. For 29 years, I'd been the reliable one. The helper. The problem solver. The one who sacrificed for Tyler. I'd swallowed disappointment every time they chose him. I'd smiled through celebrations of his mediocrity while my achievements went ignored. I'd loaned money I couldn't afford to lose because family helps family. And this was my reward. They wanted my house, the one thing I'd built completely on my own through my own work and sacrifice. And they expected me to hand it over without protest, because that's what I always did. I forced myself to smile. You know what? That sounds reasonable. The table relaxed instantly, like they'd been holding their breath. Mom's shoulders dropped. Dad gave an approving nod. Tyler and Kayla exchanged satisfied looks. We figured they could move in early next month, Tyler said casually, like we were discussing borrowing a book instead of taking over my entire house. That gives you roughly 3 weeks to pack up your stuff and figure out your living situation. 3 weeks. They'd given me 3 weeks to completely upend my life and surrender my home. That works, I answered, taking a sip of water because my hands were trembling, and I needed something to do with them. I'll start packing this weekend. Get everything organized. Perfect. Mom beamed at me. I knew you'd understand. You've always been so mature and practical. Not everyone would be this generous. Generous. Like I'd volunteered for this instead of being railroaded. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. I smiled when I needed to, nodded at appropriate times, made generic, encouraging sounds while Kayla talked about baby names and Tyler explained his plans for turning my garage into a home gym. Every word felt like another nail in a coffin. Kayla showed me photos on her phone of the nursery furniture she'd already picked out, an expensive set from a boutique store that cost more than my car payment. It'll look amazing in that room with all the natural light, she gushed. I can't wait to get started decorating. My room, my light, my house. When I finally escaped to my car around 9 o'clock, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I sat there in the driveway for a solid 10 minutes. Engine off, staring at nothing. Then the rage hit. Not loud, screaming rage. Cold, quiet fury that filled my chest and made it hard to breathe. I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull over because my vision was blurring from tears. I sat in a random strip mall parking lot and cried until my throat hurt. Angry tears, hurt tears, years of accumulated frustration and disappointment pouring out all at once. Then I dried my face, took several deep breaths, and made a decision. If they wanted my house so badly, they could have it, just not the way they expected. 2 months earlier, my boss had called me into her office for what I'd assumed would be a routine check-in. Instead, she'd made me an offer, senior compliance analyst position at our Chicago office, 35% pay bump, leadership role, significant career advancement. The catch? I'd need to relocate, leave behind my house, my city, my proximity to family. At the time, I'd been torn. The opportunity was incredible, but leaving felt like abandoning everyone. Mom had made comments about how families stay close and how real careers don't require moving across the country. Dad had questioned whether the pay increase was worth the higher cost of living in Chicago. Tyler had actually laughed and said I'd never survive in a big city. So I turned it down. Told my boss I appreciated the offer, but wasn't ready to relocate. She'd been disappointed, but understanding. If you change your mind within the next few months, the position's yours. We want you in Chicago, Brianna. You're exactly what that team needs. Now, Chicago sounded perfect. Not just perfect. Necessary. When I got home that night, I didn't even go inside immediately. Just sat in my car in my own driveway, looking at my house, the little ranch I'd worked so hard to afford, the place where I'd finally felt like I was building something real and permanent. They wanted to take it away from me, like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. Inside, I poured myself some juice and opened my laptop. Found my boss's email from 2 months ago and hit reply. Hi, Jennifer. I've been thinking about the Chicago position and would like to accept if the offer is still available. When would you need me to start? Her response came through within 20 minutes, even though it was almost 10 p.m. Offer absolutely still on the table. How soon can you be there? We'd love to have you by November 1st if possible. November 1st. 3 weeks away. Exactly the timeline Tyler had so generously given me to pack up my life. November 1st works perfectly. I'll need to handle some things on my end, but I can make that timeline. Thank you for this opportunity. We emailed back and forth for another 30 minutes, hammering out details. Salary, moving expense, reimbursement, start date, apartment recommendations. By 11 p.m., I had a signed offer letter and a plan. The next morning, I called 3 real estate agents before finding one who specialized in quick sales. I explained my situation, well, the sanitized version where I was relocating for work and needed to sell fast. She came over that afternoon, walked through the house, and gave me a realistic assessment. If you price it competitively, we can move this quickly, she said, pulling up comparable sales on her tablet. I'd suggest listing it for about $10,000 under market value. In this neighborhood, with these features, you should have multiple offers within a week. We listed it that same afternoon. The photos were done the following day. By Monday, my house was on the market with a price that would attract serious buyers. I even included some of my furniture in the sale to make the process faster. The couch Tyler had his eye on. The dining set Kayla had mentioned she loved. They wouldn't be getting any of it. For 3 weeks, I played the role perfectly. Answered Mom's texts about preparing the house with vague affirmations. Yep, working on it. Packing things up. Getting organized. Never lying, but never telling the full truth either. When Tyler texted asking if I could leave my TV mounted on the living room wall since they didn't have one that nice, I responded, "We'll see what works out." When Kayla called every day asking about paint colors for the nursery, I systematically cut another tie to this place and these people. I hired movers for 3 weeks out, started packing room by room, labeling everything. Methodically sold furniture that wouldn't fit in my new place. Almost done packing, I'd tell them, which was true. Found a good situation, also true. My new Chicago apartment is great. Don't worry about helping. I've got it. Handled. Which was the truest thing I'd said to them in years. Tyler sent me a long text message 3 days before their scheduled moving day. He'd clearly put thought into it, which was rare for him. Just wanted to say, thanks for being so cool about all this. I know it's a big change for you, but this is really going to help us get on our feet. Having a stable place to raise the baby is everything. You're the best sister ever. I stared at that message for a long time. The audacity was almost impressive. They'd taken my house, and he was thanking me like I'd volunteered it. Like this was a generous gift instead of outright theft. I didn't respond. The final week was surreal. I'd wake up in my mostly empty house, boxes stacked everywhere, and feel completely detached from the situation, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart instead of living through my own. Wednesday, 2 days before closing, Kayla texted asking if I'd be around Saturday to help them move in. We've got a truck rented, but could use extra hands. Plus, we want to take you out for dinner after as a thank you. Dinner. They wanted to take me to dinner after stealing my house, using my own money from previous loans, Probably. Sorry, not available Saturday, I texted back. Good luck with the move, though. Thursday night, my final night in the house. I slept on an air mattress in the empty living room. All my belongings were either packed for the movers or already in my car, which was loaded to the ceiling with essentials I'd need immediately in Chicago. I lay there, staring at the ceiling I'd painted myself 2 years ago, listening to the familiar sounds of my house settling. For a moment, I felt guilty. Was this too extreme? Too cruel? Then I remembered the smug look on Tyler's face at dinner. Remembered Kayla planning renovations to my house without asking. Remembered 29 years of being second choice, backup plan, the reliable one who didn't matter. The guilt evaporated. Friday morning, movers arrived at 6 a.m. sharp. Professional, efficient. They had everything loaded in under 4 hours. By 10:30, my entire life was in a truck heading for Illinois. I met the real estate agent at the title company for closing at noon, signed approximately 4,000 documents, watched the money hit my account, and handed over the keys to the new owners, a young couple who were genuinely excited about their first home. The neighbors are really nice, the wife said as we chatted while paperwork processed. We met the couple next door yesterday. They mentioned someone named Tyler was moving in. Interesting, I said, keeping my expression neutral. I wonder who Tyler is. The new owners took possession immediately, scheduled their own movers for tomorrow morning. The exact same time Tyler would be showing up with his rental truck, expecting to take over my life. By 2 p.m., I was on the road to Chicago. Tank full of gas, trunk full of essentials, phone fully charged. My movers would arrive at my new apartment the following day. Everything I owned was in transit to a new life. Around 3:30, approximately the time Tyler and Kayla were planning to start loading their truck, my phone started buzzing. I was somewhere on I-80, windows down, music loud, feeling freer than I'd felt in years. Didn't even look at the phone. Just kept driving. By the time I finally pulled into my new apartment complex in Chicago around 7 p.m., I had 63 missed calls and 147 text messages. I grabbed my overnight bag, ignored my buzzing phone, and checked into my empty new apartment. Ordered takeout from a Thai place down the street. Sat on the floor of my unfurnished living room, eating pad thai straight from the container. My phone continued vibrating like an angry wasp trapped in my purse. Around 8, I finally looked. Mom's voicemails progressed from confused to angry, to panicked, to devastated. Brianna, where are you? Tyler's at the house, and there are strangers. They're saying they own it. Call us back. This isn't funny anymore. What is happening? Those people have a deed. How could you do this to your brother, to your family? Where will they live? Please, sweetheart, call us back. We can figure this out. Just tell us what's going on. Dad's messages were shorter but more aggressive. Explain yourself immediately. This is unacceptable behavior. Call me now. You've made a huge mistake. This will have consequences. Tyler sent approximately 40 messages, ranging from confused to furious. What the hell is going on? There are people at your house saying they bought it. Did you seriously sell the house? Where are we supposed to go? Kayla's crying. She's pregnant. You're destroying my family. I can't believe you'd do this to me. I thought we were family. Screw you. You've always been jealous. This is low even for you. And Kayla contributed her own dramatic messages. We're homeless because of you. You're taking away your niece's chance at a stable life. I'll never forgive you for this, ever. Extended family started chiming in, too. Clearly, my parents had activated the family phone tree to apply maximum pressure. Cousin Lindsay, really mature Brianna, running away like a child instead of helping family. Aunt Beverly, your mother is devastated. I hope you're proud of yourself. Uncle Rich, some way to treat your brother when he needs you most. I scrolled through every message, every voicemail, every notification. Read them all while eating Thai food on my empty apartment floor. Then I typed one response to the family group chat. I accepted a promotion in Chicago and needed to sell my house. Closed yesterday. Good luck with everything. Then I blocked all of them. Mom, Dad, Tyler, Kayla, every cousin, aunt, and uncle who'd sent judgmental messages. I blocked them on my phone, on social media, everywhere. Every contact I severed felt like releasing a weight I'd carried for decades. My real estate agent texted me right before I turned my phone off. Heard your family showed up at the house today. My client said it was quite dramatic. Hope everything's okay. Congrats again on the sale. I replied, everything's perfect. Thanks for all your help. Then I silenced my phone entirely, took a long, hot shower in my new bathroom, and slept on an air mattress in my empty bedroom. Best sleep I'd had in months. Update. 6 months later, all right, Reddit. Enough people asked for. An update that I figured I'd post one. It's been 6 months since I ghosted my family and started fresh in Chicago. Best decision I've ever made, hands down. My new job is incredible. The team actually values my input and gives me credit for my work. I've already gotten another raise and was promoted to lead analyst for our entire compliance division. My boss nominated me for a company leadership development program that starts next month. I've made actual friends here, too. People who know nothing about my past and see me as just Brianna, not Tyler's sister, or the reliable one, or the backup plan. We explore the city, try new restaurants, take weekend trips. Normal stuff I never had time for before because I was always managing someone else's crisis. I even started dating someone I met at a work conference. He's a financial risk analyst from Minneapolis, incredibly smart and treats me like an actual priority instead of an obligation. We've been doing the long-distance thing for 3 months, and it's going really well. As for my family, I learned everything through Rachel, my old coworker, who still lives in my hometown and loves drama. Tyler and Kayla moved into my parents' basement. The plan was supposedly temporary, just until they got on their feet. 6 months later, they're still there. 3 adults, 1 baby, and my parents' marriage all crammed into a 1,200 square foot house that was already too small for 2 people. The cryptocurrency disaster got even worse after I left. Turned out Tyler had invested way more than the initial 10 grand. He'd maxed out credit cards, including 2 he'd opened fraudulently in my parents' names, borrowed from multiple payday loan companies, and convinced my parents to dump their entire retirement savings into his sure-thing investment. When everything crashed, he was left with approximately $600 in worthless digital tokens and roughly $70,000 in debt across various sources. My parents had to take out a second mortgage just to cover the most urgent debts and avoid criminal charges for the credit card fraud. They're both still working in their mid-60s because retirement is no longer financially possible. The house I grew up in, they're losing it. They're behind on the mortgage payments. Foreclosure proceedings started last month. Rachel says my mom has aged 10 years in 6 months. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. They're looking at downsizing to a small apartment once the foreclosure finalizes. Tyler's working retail now at some big box store. His first steady job in years, probably because he literally has no other options. Makes about $11 an hour folding clothes and restocking shelves. Kayla got a job at a coffee shop but kept calling in sick, so she got fired after 3 weeks. She's been unemployed since, blaming her pregnancy and then the new baby for why she can't work. The baby, a girl, was born in April. They named her Brianna. According to Rachel, Kayla chose the name as some kind of peace offering, like naming her daughter after me would magically fix everything they destroyed. My first reaction was anger. How dare they use my name after what they did? But then I just felt sad for that little girl, born into chaos through no fault of her own. So I did something I haven't told anyone about. I set up an anonymous trust fund for my niece, hired a financial attorney, established everything through shell entities, so it can't be traced back to me. The fund will mature when she turns 18, enough to cover 4 years of college tuition, plus some cushion for living expenses. Tyler and Kayla won't know it exists until she's legally an adult, and they can't touch it. The documentation is ironclad. My niece will get a real chance to build her own life instead of being dragged down by her parents' terrible decisions. Because here's the thing, breaking cycles doesn't mean punishing innocent people. That baby didn't choose this mess. She deserves better than I got. My parents tried reaching out through mutual family friends. Had my Aunt Beverly call Rachel asking for my contact information. Had old family friends message me on LinkedIn. Even had someone from my old church email me about family healing. I ignored all of it. Then last month, something shifted. I got a letter forwarded from my old P.O. box. Return address from Gramps' assisted living facility. My stomach dropped when I saw it because I'd been avoiding thinking about him. He'd always been caught in the middle of family politics, and I figured he'd sided with them after I left. The letter was in his shaky handwriting. Brianna, heard about what happened with your house and the move. Your mother has her version of events, but I know how your parents operate. I've watched them favor Tyler your whole life, and it wasn't right. I'm sorry I didn't speak up more. I let them convince me that he needed more support in my will because you'd always be fine on your own. But I see now, you're fine because you never got the luxury of being helpless. I've changed everything. You'll get what's fair. I'm proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. Love, Gramps. I cried reading that letter. First time I'd cried about this whole situation since driving to Chicago. Not sad tears, grateful tears. Someone finally saw what had really happened. Someone finally acknowledged that I'd been treated unfairly my whole life, and it wasn't okay. Gramps passed away 2 months ago. Heart failure in his sleep. He was 92. I flew back for the funeral, stayed in a hotel, avoided my family the entire time. Sat in the back row during the service, slipped out before anyone could corner me, and flew back to Chicago the same day. The will reading happened last week. Gramps kept his word. Left Tyler exactly $1 and a note that said, "You got everything while you were alive. Time to earn your own way." Left my parents nothing. Everything else, his house, savings, investments, everything came to me. After taxes and estate fees, roughly $380,000. My parents tried contesting it immediately. Claimed Gramps wasn't mentally competent when he made the changes. Their lawyer took one look at the extensive medical documentation showing Gramps had been sharp as ever and told them they had no case. Tyler had a complete meltdown at the reading. Started screaming about how I'd poisoned Gramps against him, how this was all my fault, how I destroyed the family. The attorney had security escort him out. According to Rachel's latest update, Kayla finally left Tyler 3 weeks ago, took baby Brianna, and moved in with her parents 2 states away, filed for divorce, citing financial irresponsibility and emotional neglect. Tyler's now living with my parents in whatever small apartment they end up renting after the foreclosure. 3 broke adults sharing close quarters while pretending everything's fine. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. Used part of Gramps' inheritance to buy a condo in a nice Chicago neighborhood. Paid cash. No mortgage. The rest is invested, securing my actual future. I had a night out with my new friend group last week. Someone asked about my family, and I realized I'd gone 3 whole days without thinking about them once. They're becoming less relevant to my life with every passing day. My parents sent one final message through a mutual family friend, asking if we could talk if there was any possibility of reconciliation. I sent back one sentence, "There's nothing to reconcile. I'm not coming back." So tell me, when enough is finally enough, what would you have done in my place?